So the only way to define the mantle of Elijah, we have to look at Elijah's life and what Elijah did. And there's a few things that really stand out about this mantle. And the first thing is, within the mantle of Elijah, the first thing that we see is that this mantle calls a generation back to prayer.
Yeah.
This is the function Elijah did when he healed the altar. So I believe prophetic intercession is one of the biggest earmarks of people that will carry this mantle, because Elijah, he actually prayed, and if we remember, he sent his servant to go look, and there was a cloud the size of a man's hand the seventh time. And so this mantle prays, and it has the authority to open the heavens.
Wow.
And it closed the heavens for a season. It was through Elijah that the heavens were closed, but they were closed because it was exposing the god that was being worshipped of that day, Baal. And so it's a confrontational mantle. And in times where confrontations are needed, this mantle will rise up. It'll come upon a generation. And we're in days where there's many agendas that are being released that we're seeing through the media. And it will require not a passive church, but a church that will be as bold as Elijah was in his generation to challenge Ahab, to challenge Jezebel, and then also to even challenge the false prophets of Baal. And so we see that. The other thing we see in this mantle is miracles. Elijah raised the dead. We saw miracles of provision through this mantle. We saw Elijah call down fire. And so there's so many things about this mantle, but here's why we must move in the power for miracles in the Elijah mantle. It was not through a sermon that the generation turned back to God. It was when he called fire down. And so this mantle calls fire down for a generation to see it.
Wow.
And it will turn people back to God. There are people that already heard about the cross, but to them it's just a theory. Until we can demonstrate it with power, because the kingdom is not a kingdom of word only. It's a kingdom of power. And Paul, he preached in the power and demonstration of the Spirit. And so one thing about this mantle, you cannot say that you're walking in the spirit and power of Elijah and not be walking in demonstrations. Because that was prevalent. We see it in Elijah's life and even Elisha. He began to split the waters when he walked across the Jordan. When Elisha picked up the same mantle, he operated in the same thing, but in a double portion. And so it's packed with power. The other thing about this mantle that I really believe is very significant is it restores. There are things that must be restored to our generation and to many generations that were lost, that were alive in the early church. And every time there was a revival, every time there was a move of God, there was something restored back to the church that was ancient. And that's why we see certain revivals have certain emphasis. We see certain revivals, healing was the emphasis. Certain moves of God, we see where the prophetic became the emphasis. And as we start to look, we're at a place that's unique, because now we're seeing where almost everything has been restored. And so where we are today, I believe this next move of God, this outpouring that is on the horizon, that's already started, the cloud that's the size of a man's hand, where we're already starting to feel the outpour now, but we've only tapped the surface of what's coming. We are about to see, it will not just be prophetic. It will not just be a miracle, a healing type of movement. We are going to see everything that functioned in the life of Jesus. I'm talking on a full scale though, not certain individuals. What is coming on our generation is going to be the glory that was promised to come to the latter house. And that's what this Elijah mantle does. It restores those ancient anointings, those ancient things, and it brings us to the axe head. Because it was Elisha, but we must remember he was carrying the mantle of Elijah. When they went to expand, because the place they were in was too small, they began to build it, and the axe head fell into water. So it was lost. And when it was lost, they had to go and find the man that was carrying the Elijah mantle to bring it back up to the surface. There are things that are in the deep that we are about to cause to surface.
Yes.
The Elijah mantle is coming on our generation.